Happy Wednesday, everyone.
Hey, hello everybody. Welcome, Therapy Flow community. Today we're going to talk about marketing for therapists, specifically 10 strategies to grow your practice, but I'd also kind of consider this a little bit of maybe like a marketing 101,
Yeah,
sort of.
great.
Um, so, guys, quite frankly, to be successful, to have a thriving practice, you need marketing. You need to know marketing. You need to understand sales and marketing and how they all come together. As more and more big names sort of appear in the mental health space, there's more of a proof of concept for mental health being a very viable business sector. Okay, a very healthy business sector. So we have big venture capital players like BetterHelp and Alma and Sonderminds and all these guys helping us in all types of capacities. And so you, as a private practitioner, can reach in and get a piece of that pie. As a mental health therapist, you get to reach in and grab a piece of that big pie that is being spun up. More and more people are buying these days based on their pains. More and more people are buying not just to have therapy, but they're buying really to solve problems. We've seen this, and it's been very apparent with COVID and a pandemic, and it's going to just keep resurging and going to become less of a stigma and more of a linchpin in really the marketplace. So we're going to talk about a few key like marketing segments, mostly things that you've all heard before. Maybe we'll talk about how you can be successful in each of these just briefly. But this is really just meant to be more of a 101, present the information, and get you guys kind of cooking. So as sort of like a guide, I would just say for most therapists, marketing may feel beyond your expertise, outside of your comfort zone, especially if you are actually doing the sales for your organization as well. And most of the time, you feel like you've entered the space to help people, not to sell products or services. But if you want your private practice to succeed and to thrive rather than just survive, or just barely work with your ideal clients and barely kind of get by, having the right marketing is super important. So I hope I've driven that home. Let's talk about number one, our therapy directories. Josh, I'll turn it over to you for.
Yeah, you can't really talk about marketing your therapy practice without starting the conversation at therapy directories for two reasons. One, it's the most obvious, it's the most specific, that it's just like the tee up. Everyone talks about it, right? But it's also typically the lowest cost or the most available resource for you guys to market yourself, right? Someone else has created sort of a watering hole, so to speak, that a lot of other people want to come to. And all that is required for you to tap into that is to show up there, right? For 30 bucks a month, for 10 bucks a month, for nothing, whatever it is. So in some ways, it'd be inefficient of us not to take a couple hours in a week, a couple hours in a month, and put together as many of these profiles as we kind of possibly can. Like it's low hanging fruit. Like get it, do it, go after it. And this will lead us into the other ones. The main caveat I'd say before we share a couple tips and tricks is if you think this is all you need, right? If you think that this is all you need, right? It's called low hanging fruit for a reason. It's what you can immediately reach out and grab without putting any true effort or work in, right? So there's a lot of other great fruit, higher fruit that you might have to put some more effort in, but will increase the harvest, will increase the fold, right? But it's an amazing starting point. And sometimes you get lucky because there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Your profile gets a lot of views. I'll start out with one quick tip. Get a really good headshot. Get a friend, spend a couple $100, whatever you need to do, but go and get a really warm, nice headshot that you feel great in and you look great in, because the judgment on these sites, unfortunately, starts right there.
Yeah, I'll take it a step further. A couple examples might be like ecounseling.com or Psychology Today, or what are some other like therapy for Black girls.
Good therapy, therapy den, even, there's a couple other listing sites. So
Yeah, but basically these listing sites, guys, they cost very, very little. They cost very, very little. Some of you might strike gold, quite frankly, when you put yourself on a listing site. We know plenty of therapists who get all of their business from one listing site, one or two listing sites, and that's how they literally keep their practice full. Now, I'm not saying to stay there forever. I'm not saying that you should stay there forever. It's an asset that you do not own. But just by putting yourself out there, just by being available on those networks, sometimes you can really strike gold. And the crazy thing is that there's enough listing sites out there, and the amount of therapists and the amount of people that need help. Occasionally, maybe visiting like Secular Therapy Project or something like that, like a more fringe one, something that maybe you fit into. And all of a sudden you find yourself completely full. That's the best case scenario for someone who's just starting out and really, quite frankly, just needs the cash to be able to figure out their own marketing, to be able to take the time to figure out their own offer, take the time to figure out how they can compete in a category of one, just be present and show up for the opportunity of the therapy directories or the therapy listing sites.
Yeah.
So what I would say about that, Josh, if you could flesh out really quick, maybe give us the pointers on what the marketing strategy is for therapy directories.
Yeah. I think the number one thing is you have to write your profile. Not like 90% of the other profiles there. And the mistake that 90% of the profiles make is they write them with them in mind. This is who I am. This is what I do. These are all of my clinical terms, all of my clinical processes, all of my fill in the blank, me, right? There's very little value, and even more so, there's very little space for a potential client to see themselves in your process, right? So you have to write your headline number one as something that actually makes sense, like on a reading level. You're not using like big clinical terms and words, but you have to write your headline in a way that grabs someone's attention. You write it down. If it doesn't feel like it grabs your attention, you rewrite it and you kind of hone it a little bit until you're like, oh, I really like that. And then for the rest of your profile, same thing, especially those first couple sentences. It's who is the person that could seek care from you? What are they experiencing? What are they feeling? What are they struggling with? What fill in the blank, right? And the best way to do this is go look at a bunch of profiles and grade them. There's probably an A profile. There's probably a B profile. There's probably a C profile. Get 5 or 6 A profiles that you're like, wow, I don't know what they did, but they did something great. And then go try and recreate that same profile because something was probably different on a flavor, on an emotional level, on an anecdotal level. Don't use all of your clinical terms. Don't list out 50 things that you cover for, right? Keep it simple, keep it straightforward, keep it client-centric from their perspective.
Yeah, I'll add one little nugget extra. When Josh says keep it simple, we mean like literally below 8th grade reading level. Yeah. So the average reading level for anyone on average in America is about 8th grade. And so some of you might be like, that's not who I want to work with. I don't want to work with the people that have bad reading levels. Guys, it's not about the reading level. It's about processing power. If your information that you're presenting is communicating at a high reading level, immediately there's more psychological barriers to understanding, and not just understanding, but being willing to read through and give you an opportunity. So it's not about you. It's not about who you're serving. It's about let's make it easy for everyone. All you have to do is just go find an online readability checker. And I think one that I use is like Readable or readsomething.com. Check that out, guys. If you search for online reading level checker, it'll probably be like number 2 or 3 on the list. It's really good because it gives you suggestions on improving your sentence structure. And then the other thing I would recommend too, just to piggyback off of you, Josh, on who are we presenting it to, the pains, like be less solution focused and be more problem focused. I would say how are we understanding our market and how are we researching our market? Like, who are we talking to? Maybe you can touch a little bit on how we're researching or getting in contact or speaking to our marketplace, I'd say. And this is going to be important for all of this, really, but let's go ahead and bring it up now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think we're spending just a a little bit more time on this one specifically. One, because it's so available for all you clinicians out there, but also it doing this one correctly, especially on like a writing level, on a headline level, on a marketing level, will bleed into having success in almost all the other ones, right? Because if you show up in written form or even verbal form, doing this one well can translate to all your other ones. So are you feeling fill in the blank, right? Are you experiencing tension at home? Are you experiencing overwhelm while you try and take care of your kids? Are you experiencing fatigue as you try and work through the problems in your marriage, right? Are you struggling with work-life balance um, while maintaining a 9 to 5 job? What isn't showing up there, right, is are you experiencing complex PTS trauma? Are you experiencing little T trauma? Are you experiencing big T trauma? Do you have a schizophrenic diagnosis? Do you have, are you searching for EMDR services that X, Y, and Z, right? That might come later in terms of the explanation of how you do what you do. But especially for a lot of the first things, what is that person going to read that says, oh, this person can help me with what I'm struggling with? And this will also help you on your like niche level, right? You want to work with enough people, but you don't want to work with you don't want to work with everyone. But to narrow this focus a little bit, you can use this part of it to speak into the type of client that will be attracted to working with you.
Yeah, I'd say when it comes down to the niche here, guys, um, we typically stick to 4 criteria, which is, do they want what you have? Can you reach them effectively? Can they pay for your stuff? And can you deliver a really good service? And I'd almost extend a 5th one. Is there enough of them out there for you to serve and make your money out of it, right? So if you're sticking to that as your criteria, that's usually how you can find niches. Some people will tell you to build a niche or build your marketplace around a specific like demographic, like veterans or adolescents or seniors or whatever. But to be honest, we've found that the best way to like niche down is to be pain specific. And so that way you can draw them through to your solution. So, hey, you have this pain. This solution fixes that pain, rather than saying, I work with house moms that have anxiety. It's creating a complexity that oftentimes maybe doesn't need to exist. You're adding just an extra layer. And so on that front, essentially, we do want to do a little bit of research. Like if you've never worked with these individuals before and you're just going out to shotgun approach the marketplace, we do want to do a little bit of research. Josh, when it comes to researching our target clients and understanding their pains, what are maybe a couple hot tips that we can give them when it comes to like understanding what people are looking for or what they're trying to find, essentially?
Yeah, I think overall there's 2 things that come to mind when you say how do we research, how do we know what the market wants, right? Is kind of what you're asking, and how do we measure that against what we want? Like it's this ebb and flow of like I want to provide a great service, but the market wants to have a great service, right? And how do we meet those in the middle and find out about those things? Number one is lack of volume, lack of conversations, lack of interest is indicative of research, right? So if you make a Facebook post, if you make an Instagram post, if you put out a Facebook ad, if you build your listing site and you get 200, 300, 400 views, if you make a Google ad, fill in the blank, whatever activity you did, if you did a really high volume of it, right? Maybe what you're offering or maybe what you're saying or how you're shaping it, if you're not getting a high volume of response, that's your research, right? That's your response. So the best way to do research is to go out and make these listing site profiles, go get an ad, go, do other things that we might mention here. And if it works, that's it coming back to you. That's if it doesn't work, right? And then the other thing is ask your friends, ask your clients, you can do anonymous surveys. There's a lot of ways to simply ask the questions of what made you sign up with me? What are you looking for in a therapist? What attracts you to therapy? Why would someone buy a therapeutic service, right? What gets a mom to purchase therapeutic services for her kids, right? You find ways to ask those questions, and you do something with those answers.
I'm going to add 2 extra things in here. Google Keyword Planner. Google
Yeah,
Keyword
that's a great
Planner.
logistic one.
Just go on, it's completely free. All you have to do is create a Google Ad account, and the Google Keyword Planner is an option for you inside of the tools and settings section. Just type in some of the hot keywords that you think people might search for to find you or to look for you, and it'll give you suggestions around keywords. And so if obviously you're seeing no data or less than 10 people searching for it per month, that means you have to put out incredible amounts of content. That means you have to you're playing the game on hard mode. So if you're typing in all these keywords, have a list of 15 to 30 keywords that someone could realistically type in to find you, and the keyword volume is very low on a monthly basis. That's probably a reason to run from that space. If you're typing in things and there's lots of volume, that means there's lots of interest. That means lots of eyes are on it, lots of minds are on it, and that means that you probably have a good place to essentially get good data from, get good research from, take a look, and that's a viable market. The other places I would look is Reddit and Amazon Books. So Amazon Books that are on your topic, you can go into the review section and see what people are saying about books on anxiety, particularly books that are not academic, particularly books that people might get for self-help. Maybe it's a book on calming nerves, or a book on eating disorders or something like that, like overcoming eating disorders or smoking cessation or something like that. Find books and then go look at the reviews. See what the 5-star reviews are saying, see what the 3-star reviews are saying, see what the 1-star reviews are saying, and see how you might be able to kind of fit in and do research in that capacity. And then when it comes to Reddit, Reddit's a really great one because you just look up the issue, and there are people raving and ranting about therapists. There's people raving and ranting about their particular diagnosis, whether they have it or not, etc. So you can find a lot of research on those platforms. Josh, I would say the next section is networking.
Yeah, we just did some recent content on networking, and I walked people through a 3x3 model, and you can multiply this for as much time or as little time as you want, but essentially it's a find, a message, and a follow-up model. So before we get to the process and the content and the message and who and what and where, right, follow a 3x3 model essentially, which essentially is find 3 segments. You're going to spend 10 minutes. If we're taking a 30-minute chunk here, you're going to take 10 minutes to find someone you want to network with, right? Churches, dentists, other practitioners, groups, community centers, literally anyone that you think the question of who has my people, who interacts with the people I want to get in front of, right? Schools and the principals and the occupational therapists, like a board game store, whatever it is, right? Who has my people? You spend 10 minutes thinking about and actually going and starting to create a list of who has my people. So you have the people you want to reach out with, right? Then you spend the next 10 minutes crafting the message. It can be a simple message. It can be a complex message. A couple suggestions here is, gratitude, research, and just straight up tit for tat. I've got people I can refer you to. You've got people you can refer my way. Let's do it. We'll come back to maybe the content of the message in a second. And then last is follow-up, right? Is when you've been doing this week in and week out for a couple weeks, a couple months, right? You want to spend some time nurturing the relationships that you have. So you're going to go back to your list and be like, man, who hasn't gotten a message from me from a while? Who's been 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks since they've gotten something from me, a message, a hello, a thank you, a whatever, right? So that way you can stay top of mind. Because if you network with someone once, they might refer to you if someone comes across their way for the next 4 weeks. But what happens after that, right? You have to stay top of mind. So, 10 minutes in a 30-minute chunk, doing the 3 segments, find, send, follow, and then that will get you really far. Do this consistently, right? Put, initially, if it's all you can do, 30 minutes on your calendar once a week, right? You can do that. And then you can increase it for sure. You could spend 90 minutes a week. You could spend 5 hours a week, right, networking. You could make it your thing, but the consistency every single week of this strategy is what allows you to win in the end.
Notably for networking, it is an offline strategy, right? This is something that you do in the real world. There is an online version of it that maybe we can touch on a little bit later. However, networking is an offline activity. Okay, it's particularly something that very few therapists actually go out and do. It's kind of like the 1% of people actually do it, because if more therapists do it, therapy would be a much larger, like more prevalent thing. Right?
I disagree with that. I think almost every therapist networks when they first open their practice.
Yeah, that's
only
good.
1% of therapists, maybe less, consistently network weekly or monthly long term after they do the initial I'm opening and you pass business cards out everywhere. I see that every day, right? What I don't see is that practice owner who's been at it for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later, and they're like, yeah, networking is one of the primary ways I'm trying to drive clients.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's move on. Let's go to some digital or online marketing strategies. I think what's interesting about online is you can reach a heck of a lot more people. You can really, really scale out your time. However, oftentimes that comes at a cost of money. And it's not always time effective either. It's just as intensive or more oftentimes, because you have to figure out how to actually crack into the space. So it's really important for you to understand what it takes to get into the online marketing space. And I think one of the biggest things is, and I think this is something that crosses the mind of a lot of therapists when they're getting started, and they confuse it as a need or a requirement to get started, but creating a website. Josh, I'll kind of let you touch on maybe pros and cons of creating a website, when it's needed, why it's not needed, or when it's not needed. And is a website marketing, or is it actually something else?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about like getting a website, essentially, it's sort of like a piece of land. You could even put a really pretty building on it, but at the end of the day, if no one knows about it, or there isn't any attention, or there isn't like foot traffic because of a road outside or a busy street or whatever it is, like if you don't have a way to let people know and to get people in front of that website isn't going to be super useful. However, it can be supplemental for these other strategies. So, you go out, you buy your domain name, you build your website on a popular provider. That's just like it exists, but you have to really, in the grand scheme of things, make it available. And it can be a good identifier. If someone does hit your website because they're researching you, they're going to be able to read more content and dig into your art and decide maybe if they want to work with you and reach out. We do talk about websites a lot, to the point where a lot of times it's a big time suck, it's a big money suck, and it's a big energy suck when you're first getting started. And there's other ways to accomplish the same goal, so to speak. But in the grand scheme of things, it all comes back to, if you go through the steps to build a great website and you actually choose to invest the time in it, you have to do something that will consistently send traffic to it, because that's what makes that asset worthwhile.
Yeah, websites, guys, are a place where people can land. It's not a place, it's typically not a way that someone gets to you. And the strategy for someone to get to you using a website often is time consuming and requires a lot of money. That'll be search engine optimization, and we'll cover that shortly. But if we wanted to get a website rocking and rolling, I would say that really these are the sort of the 4 or 5 things that we need to sort of get started. One, you'll buy a domain name. We like using a company called namecheap.com. Then you'll go ahead and actually build the website. There's a lot of website like builders out there, but a lot of them you don't actually own your website. So please, please, please be careful when it comes to the website builder that you're using.
Right.
One of the reasons why we recommend WordPress.org specifically, And then using the theme Divi is because you completely own your website and your website files. And so in case something really, really bad happens, or like say you built something on Wix or Squarespace or something, or with Brighter Vision, maybe the company goes out of business or whatever. Maybe you need to move to different places because you don't have enough access to make changes that you need to make changes for your marketing. You can move, or you can do different things. You can completely make custom code. So we recommend using WordPress, and then WordPress is 80% of websites are built on WordPress. It's enormously used. And then we recommend Divi, the theme, because it's probably the most well-documented theme for WordPress. It has a visual builder and everything. It's really easy to do. It's a one-time buy. If you're trying to figure it out on your own and you still want to own your website, we recommend starting there. Then just make sure that it's accessible. Just do a little bit of mobile optimization and add some good details. Include information about you, your background, your services, the problems you help, and then finally invest time in more content for your website. Invest time, more energy, whether that's blogging of some kind. But go out there and create. That is how you are going to work with Google sensors for search engine optimization, which we'll get to here shortly. Unless Josh, you had something else you wanted to add.
No, use the skills you got from identifying your niche and writing your profiles and stuff, and insert that and go the extra mile if you do choose to go through all of those steps for getting out a website. My last comment, other than just owning your website, WordPress and that Divi long-term can also be a lot cheaper. As cheap as a Wix or Squarespace or Brighter Vision in theory is, it still costs monthly for whatever that cost is to a higher degree. So you want to put that cash towards something else, there's some other options on the table, is all I'd say.
Yeah, I forgot, along with domain names, you'll also have to buy your hosting, your web hosting. Right. So your web hosting is going to be like 10 or 12 bucks a month or something like that. We use a company called SiteGrounds. They kick butt. They do some really good work. So if there's nothing else on websites, Josh, I'll let you go ahead and hit search engine optimization or get started there.
Yeah, so SEO, we can keep this really straightforward. To define it super quickly, it's essentially your ability to appear mainly in your Google search, right? So if someone searches therapy near me, or how to get started with a counselor, or EMDR, what is it, right? Whatever configuration, you want to show up for that. And there's a couple things that are going to really help with that. Number one, just go watch a quick video, whether Google puts it out or YouTube puts it out or whatever, on like what are the identifiers, or what are the rankings of what creates good SEO content, or like what goes into being ranked well. The number one identifier is your keywords, right? What is your site filled with? And the best and the easiest and Google's preferred way for you to fill your site with a lot more keyword identifiers for them to know how to show your site is ongoing content generation. Initially, this looks like just sites, your homepage, your services page, your about you page, right? But the long-term, more sustainable way to do this, because you can't just have unlimited information on your site, is blogging specifically. Articles, 500 to 2,000 words, depending, topic specific for your niche, for your industry, written, and doing that ongoing for 6, 12, 18 months, and then just sort of in perpetuity is what's really going to drive that result. There are some other concepts like backlinking and on and off page optimization, and those are significant portions of it, like site speed. But in our experience, especially in the mental health space, those who blog consistently, like 1 to 2 times a week for a year plus, have great rankings, great SEO, and then maybe Attilio, you can talk about sort of the Google My Business addendum to this as well.
Yeah, I would say, guys, 90% of people stick to the first page on Google. Okay, 90% of people, when searching, stick to the top, the first page on Google. So people are not looking to the second page of Google. They want their answers, and they want their answers immediately. And more often than not, about 30-35% of the time, people are clicking on the very top result. So SEO is super powerful. If there's people searching. The additional item here is Google My Business. And Google My Business tends to pop up when people are searching for something with a location indicator inside of their query. So that's when someone's like near me, or therapy in Washington, or any available therapists in 15-mile range or something like that. So if you want to get found, which you do, when someone's searching for something like that, you also want to take part in Google My Business. Google My Business is those three, oftentimes it's about three little people that show up when you do a location query. Just type in something like pizza near me. You'll see that the first buckets are going to be the three nearest pizza shops. And it looks like they have like a little picture, a little call now button, a little directions button. So if you want to appear in that above even the search results, you want to invest a little bit of time in Google My Business. Typically for Google My Business, all you have to do is have the Google My Business asset. So that means that you're just going to Google My Business, opening up the free profile, getting yourself verified there, filling out the descriptions, and then we typically recommend asking 15 to 20 people that you know that might be able to give you a character reference in the form of a review. Essentially what that does is it allows you to really, quite frankly, pop up above everyone else in your area. Most therapists are not asking their friends and family and peers and vendors for reviews, and so it allows you to just jump ahead of the pack. Ethically, you can't ask for your clients to leave you a review. However, some practices do it and they get away with it. We're not suggesting you do anything unethical. However, just keep that in mind. Getting reviews, even if it's your friends, family, and vendors, and getting those 5-star reviews in, one, pads you in case a bad review does come through. We're looking at you, divorce therapists and divorce mediation therapists, because there isn't a good way to get positive reviews there. But the other thing is that once you have those reviews, you're more likely to pop up at the top there. So those are two earned media or earned attention pathways. Let's talk about a paid attention pathway. How about advertising?
Yeah, I mean, paid advertising is probably our personal favorite, the one that we're most competent at in terms of a skill, us personally and with our practices. But aside from that, the one that can really streamline and quickly produce success when done right. We're talking about Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. There are some other platforms to, of course, purchase like digital paid advertisement on, but these are the most established for therapists to purchase from at the moment. And there's, reasons why you might go with one over the other. I think I hear all the time that ads don't work. Ads are too expensive. Ads are hard. And to sit on that last one, you do have to have usually somewhere between like $200 and $800 minimum to kind of like barrier to entry to get into some of these platforms. So keep that in mind. But then also with that, to get started with it, Google has some great promotions with it. Facebook is really cool because you don't need a website. So you can actually run ads on Facebook and Instagram that are direct response, and you don't need a website. And you'll have people essentially raise their hand, give their full information, start a conversation. And this, as our like quick little dirty secret in this whole stack of ways to market yourself, using message ads or lead ads in Facebook and Instagram is one of the lowest barrier to entry ways to quickly start seeing progress in terms of getting inquiries for your therapy practice, and can be a really phenomenal way to move it forward. It does require a little cash, requires either a little bit of time to figure it out or to hire someone to help you figure it out, but can be a really great way to move it forward.
I'd also add to that, I'd say the two I think the macro buckets here are Google ads and Facebook and Instagram ads, right?
Right.
And so if you don't know, Google is in network with like YouTube and obviously the search results and a few other cool things. Facebook's network is Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, all those cool things. On the Google ads side of things, if you are particularly an insurance practice, Google ads sing for you, because you can pretty much work with anybody that clicks through. as long as you're following up with them and booking them, you're going to win effectively there. If you're a cash pay, private pay practice, that usually means that you need to come up with some type of offer for people to, quite frankly, take you seriously, and want to give you time, want to give you energy, want to be able to invest the resources, and even just listen to you long enough, since most of the market wants insurance pay. And so by having some type of offer, you can win more often than not. And Facebook and Instagram advertisement platforms are great at delivering an offer to a market and getting a response from that marketplace. So if you're a private pay practice, look at Facebook and Instagram ads. You're going to have to do a little bit of media work. You're going to have to figure your song and dance out. But Facebook and Instagram is going to be the way to go. If you're insurance, Google ads, you can win all day from Google ads if you're an insurance practice.
100%.
That's all I've got for advertising. We can go ahead and move on to email marketing.
Yeah, on an email marketing level, two things come to mind. Either you have to have a list. You have to build a list, right? And maybe this isn't the place to talk extensively about how to build a list, but essentially you keep a running list of all the people who have ever opted into a newsletter or requested information on your therapy practice or whatever it is, right? And then you send out a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly, usually more value-driven based email, good content, good book recommendations, recent insights and thoughts from your therapy practice, right? Whatever it is. And it keeps you top of mind to those people who are reading it. So when they're ready to do therapy or they're ready to move forward, they will move forward, right? Anything to add there, Tilio?
Yeah, I would just add on email marketing, this can also kind of be your recruiting method. So a lot of new therapists are using email marketing for recruiting. So if you're just looking at marketing from the standpoint of marketing to clients, you're missing out on 50% of marketing, right? Because if you're a group, you know that one therapist is worth quite a bit of money when they're full. And so email marketing is really, really great when it comes to recruiting activities. This is also the online version of networking. And so if you're networking, you can actually take those same networking strategies that Josh had just outlined above, which is find, send, and follow up. You can do the same strategy for email marketing. What's it take to find 10 churches' email addresses, craft a really great message, send it over to them, and then just follow up with them once a month or once a week or something like that, just so that they're staying top of mind. Same thing goes for like universities or other, like if you're part of EAP type situations, you like doing EAP stuff, you can find businesses that have EAP programs and essentially network with them using email marketing.
Yeah, 100%.
So if we don't want to add anything else on emails, we can touch on social media.
Social media is a very large process, right? But it's a process that's constantly changing. There's always new platforms, better approaches, more response. But at the end of the day, there are a couple known elements, right? There's the existence of pages. So you make your Facebook page, you make your Instagram page, you make your TikTok page, your Twitter page, your LinkedIn. You get on some of those larger named platforms just so that way you exist. But you have to keep in mind that when you're doing some of these things, you start to run into the ethical functions of what are you posting, how are you posting, and some of those things. And so you just have to keep not sharing information, personal health information, if you're going into personal stories or identifiers or whatever. Like, you have to be nip and talk about that. However, after we kind of get through those things, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is your Facebook page is sort of more like a business page. You're not going to get a lot of organic traffic of people like organically stumbling into your Facebook page. Someone will probably stumble on it if they're already searching for you in this day and age with just where Facebook is. So optimizing, you put your website, you put your number, you put a couple posts in there, and it exists, and you're kind of probably good to go for the most part on that platform. Instagram is going through a really big transition right now. Although they have over 1 billion users, and they're a great, steadfast platform to be on. Single still images is no longer what it is meant to be. They are primarily optimizing for short form video. So if you are going to participate in Instagram, being consistent with your videos and your tags and your hashtags and some of those things on the reels is really the best place or the best way to get new eyes on your content and get a potential inquiry or client and some of those things from. Anything to add there?
Yeah, I would just say take a look at we call it the TikTokification of marketing and of content. So we're seeing these Instagram reels being really, really popular lately because you can create really short form videos that essentially disappear after a certain set of time. And they get massive reach really quick. People can just kind of scroll through and pound them out. And so if you're creating really, really great content, which we'll get to here in a second, these things can be really high asset. Josh mentioned Facebook and Instagram, but of course, guys, keep in mind Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, some of those other guys. TikTok now is really, really important. They all have their own sort of ways where they are contextual to their marketplace. And so something that you post on Facebook might not be something that you post on Instagram, just like something you post on Instagram might not be something you post on LinkedIn. So keep in mind the context of the platform, keep in mind the client that you're going after, provide value. We typically say like jab, 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 right hook. It's a famous Gary Vaynerchuk book, but really there's not like necessarily a formula to it. The idea is just that you're providing more value than you're asking for new business or new clients. Some of the most successful Instagram accounts that we've seen, we've run across some really, really successful Instagram accounts, or therapists that have really, really successful Instagram accounts, etc. They're always just providing value, providing value, providing value. They're like, most of the time they come to us and they're like, I don't even know how to monetize this. Because they're just not asking for business yet. So keep that in mind. Social media is going to go really far for you if you build a large audience first and then think about monetizing it later. So Josh, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about content marketing.
Yeah, so in terms of content marketing, there's a couple things that you want to consider. And posting on social media is certainly a form of content marketing, but it can also show up in a couple different ways. You could have a podcast, you could show up on other people's podcasts, you could get featured on other people's channels or in the news. There's just like a lot of different venues where your content or you yourself could appear. So I just wanted to point in that direction. But, really you want to be relatable. You want to establish yourself and your trustworthiness and your context and your experience and your knowledge. There's just a lot of things that you want to bring through. But at the end of the day, I think I'd boil it down to people love stories. People love stories about you, and people love stories in general, right? So the better story crafter you can become whenever you're writing, sharing, doing content in general, the more pull and the more stickiness what you do have to say is going to really kind of show up and kind of come through. But that being said, there's also other form of content marketing, which is creating relevant content for what people are searching for. And there's some different formats that can take that maybe we can speak into for a second here.
Yeah, I would say, guys, when you're creating this content, we're aiming to do several things. Somehow we're trying to maybe answer common problems. For example, you might be answering like, do I have ADHD, right? And like offer input or offer like credential criteria on that. Possibly offer advice. So what types of advice are you sharing with your current clients that your readers or your potential visitors might find interesting? Of course, you can always answer the questions that clients typically ask when they arrive. So usually that's like process information, what is the buyer's journey for buying mental health services? What's the buyer's journey or the discovery process? Like, how do you know if it's the right time for you to join or find a mental health therapist? Beyond that, you want to be able to post regularly. So doing a single blog post once a month, guys, it's not going to cut it. Quite frankly, there's people who are doing 10 times that amount, and you're just going to get left in the dust. Same with podcasting, same with videos. So post regularly, do newsworthy articles, grab readers' attention, and consider creating really big evergreen content that doesn't age as slowly. It's a little bit more general. For reference, what we're doing right now is a big evergreen piece of content because it's just sort of the 101, right? We want to be able to engage our readers early. So find a good hook, find a good title, find a good first paragraph where people understand the objective, people understand what they're going to get from reading the article, and they're going to give your article a shot. Okay, use high emotional marketing value language in your titles and headlines. You can look up emotional marketing language grader or marketing language essentially cheat sheets online. Just Google search high EMR, EML words, and you'll find some great stuff. Aim for high quality, become a source of truth so that people can follow you. Avoid big blocks of text, so kind of spread stuff out. Make things very consumable, especially if you're doing something in written where people have to sit down, consume the content. If you're doing something a little bit more visual, like video or audio, this is just you breaking up your text, or I'm sorry, your language, breaking up how you're presenting and delivering the content. Don't give up. Recognize that it takes a long time, and just recognize that it's part of the journey, right? But the nice thing is that once you get to the top, it becomes hard for people to sort of dethrone you. So once you get to the tops, or once you start finding it, sort of a slow entry point, but then you start teasing it open and the results come behind that. And then just optimize the content. So content should be target specific. It should target specific keywords that your potential clients might be using or might be searching for. So when you're looking at what or how you should be creating content, don't forget to go back to that Google keyword planner above, or look at the research that you did above to make the best content in the best way, so that way you don't have to make a bunch of stuff and you're shooting in the dark. You're making curated information that people need and you can actually rank for and generate business from. So with that, Josh, I'll turn it over on you, and maybe we can touch on some video marketing.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, for video marketing specifically, we can't ignore the TikTokification that has happened across the board. The faster paced, even a long form video like this is less relevant and less accessible when you're trying to attract new users. Most people that are going to be consuming this or reading this later are doing a deep dive to learn something. And that is a great sort of standard pillar form of making instructional content. And that's a great starting point. And saying you need to be consistent, authentic, and show up with relevant, good information for whatever content you're making as a therapist. That can range for a lot of things when you're doing that. But the short form, can you teach someone something in 90 seconds? Can you share a story in 90 seconds? Can you share an example? If there's 10 ways to regulate yourself during the holidays, right? Your TikTok video or your short form video is actually just one of those ways, right? And that's all that's there. And that's a lot more accessible when you're thinking about it, right? And so you can't ignore the long form. You can't ignore the short form overall. But when you think about really good video marketing content, the TikTokification of what's called a hook and the meat and then a call to action of some kind is very common. So look into that if you're planning on making video content, and just do it, right? If you feel uncomfortable, if you don't feel like you look good, whatever it is, the best way to improve this process is just show up as yourself, as you currently are, however good you currently are showing up on camera, making a piece of content and putting it out. Seth Godin has a book called The Practice, and it's about just shipping creative work, like the art of just shipping it, of just getting it off the plate and posting it and doing that again and again and again is the most important element of improving yourself as a creator. And that is more true for video content than anything else if you've never dipped your toe in that water before.
Yeah, I would say, just to kind of close this up, guys, the most effective marketing is likely performed online. You can reach more people than ever before in an online way for cheaper and for less time. So sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve to get through and making it actually happen, but doing it, digital marketing for therapists today has never been really easier. And if you want a good business, if you have certain goals, it's very likely that your goals are on the opposite end of a thriving, successful private practice. You can pretty much achieve whatever you want once you've achieved a good private practice, a great private practice, really. And part of having a great private practice is understanding the marketing, the digital marketing for therapists, understanding how to generate traffic and get attention for yourself, how to turn that traffic and attention into conversations, how to turn those conversations into new clients. And quite frankly, as a private practitioner, you need to be able to learn and understand what your market wants. You need to be able to deliver some type of sales information to that candidate, to that new opportunity, and turn them into a new client. Otherwise, you need to figure out a way to stay top of mind when someone has a problem and be able to get found by those individuals, or be so top of mind that they just end up working with you. So successful marketing will always drive awareness that you exist as a practitioner and that you're available to help. So this has a positive effect not only on your local communities, on the larger communities, but also nationally and internationally. More people who seek mental health help, more people who seek mental health support means greater awareness, greater use, and ultimately a rising tide raises all ships. So more marketing means more sales, means a greater industry adoption, a greater industry use, and more people willing to pay more for what you have. So we hope that you guys really enjoyed sitting down here. Josh, do you have anything else? This was kind of a long one today, but
Yeah, I'm actually going to share 3 last things, but they're going to be really, really fast as we end today. The marketing that you do that is successful is the marketing you can do and do. What I mean by that is the marketing that will be successful for you is the one that you choose and you stick with it until it's successful. If you look at any list out there, essentially what we went through today is your available ways to market yourself. I know that there are other opportunities, other out-of-box measures, other venues for you to market yourself, but these are truly some of the most common, the most accessible, and the most available for you to do. So that leads to point number 2. Choose one, go all in, and get good at one, make it work for you to an extent before doing the next one, right? You can't do it all, especially at first. So narrow your scope a little bit, go one at a time to ensure that you're successful. Don't overwhelm yourself by saying, I have to do all 10 of these things all at once. That will be less than helpful. And then my last piece is you can do it. You can build a beautiful practice. You can build a great business that functions really phenomenally, and you can have a practice that is full and thriving. Hundreds of thousands of practices have done this. We have personally helped thousands of practices do it. So if they can do it, you can do it. And if you have the desire, hopefully this is a good starting point to go and make it happen.
Happy Wednesday, everyone.